Okay, we have breaking news. The submarines go into the waterfall. Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Jar Jar escaping from the submarine before they get dying by the waterfall. Jar Jar is going to swim before they get dying. Boom! The submarine's got to explode. The next one is interview and learn about the animatics from submarine to waterfall sequence from deleted scenes from Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. Look, the camera moving up from the Naboo's castle.
When it came time to do the DVD, George's first idea was to have a waterfall sequence put into the movie. Dean Yerka was the artist chosen to supervise the sequence, combining all the elements into a seamless whole.
This is a waterfall sequence, which was cut out of the original movie. On this sequence, I had to go by the animatic, so here's the rough animatic of the general sort of shot that we wanted. And,
there's the animatics.
Elements, these were salt elements that were shot from the original SW1 for the lead sequence. And so I combined these elements together on a grid to make a general sort of texture for the waterfall. And I took these elements and then as one image, rotated it into position. And because it's 3D space, I was able to bend the image around and make it into the sort of lip of the waterfall. And to give it some depth and some texture, I used a displacement map, which gave the sort of edge and the shape to the waterfall. And I took several other of these elements and then combined them together to create the whole general sort of shape of the waterfall. And then took a matte painting, put that in there, and then also added some particles to try and create this sort of feel of water and texture. One of the other tricky things about the shot was to actually use the submarine in there.
They're using a submarine with animatics and live action.
Using some of the images from the rest of the movie at the live action submarine. So I took that into the 3D system and then combined it together with the waterfall patches. And then because it's actually 3D, you can move into
it. Looks like a 3D.
Move around there. Yeah. Just give it a bit more life and a bit more realism, like a real camera would work. And at the moment, it's still quite a basic shot. So what I wanted to do is help hide the submarine and help fit it into the shot to create some sort of water around the edge of it, some sort of interaction, so you kind of buy that it's really there. And so I rendered some more particles and took little parts of water and little bits of water and then just plonked those into the shot. I also generated some smoke elements just using the particle system in here. This is to kind of cloud the whole image and sort of give it the kind of more.
They helped the animatics with the waterfall sequence in the video.
And then pasted them all of these elements together to create the shot. I also put some little birds in there. Some little extra touches that I did with just...
They're using to help it finished for deleted scenes animatics.
Put some grain on there to make it feel more like the film. On the second shot, here again you've got the animatic. And this is a little trickier because you see the submarine.
Yeah, a little bit trickier.
The front on. So
they can use the...
They're
using a puzzle.
The city in there. And I only had still elements to use in this shot. So what I had to do was take those still elements.
They using the camera to move the.
And then cut them into separate
they
pieces,
use the computer
so that
to help the camera moving with the animatics.
Move around with the camera to create a little bit of multiplaning sort of effect.
Yeah, multiplaning.
Sort of sit in there a little bit more, gives it a little bit more reality to the shot, rather than
reality. Looks like a video game.
And then again, I took other elements from the shot. So these are just 2D images that were put onto a little flat grid and then positioned into the shot.
Yeah, these are 2D images for the water.
Texture, more depth in there. And then here's the same element that I used before to create the lip of the waterfall. And this was all combined together in 3D space. So we can put a little move on the shot and just sort of help everything gel together and take your eye off things. And then I took the same geometry of the submarine, put that in there, and you're getting this sort of
They're
little
using the
interaction around
submarine
the
with
edge to try and help it.
Obi-Wan,
Next, we put
Qui-Gon,
the actors in, and the actors were shot against a blue
and Jar
screen,
Jar.
and we had to key them out, do a little cut out of them, and position them into the submarine itself. So here we have all of those elements combined together and doing a little push in on the shot. And here
Look,
are
there's
these
a
small
blue
particle
screen.
systems, a little bit more of the salt texture, just to hide the edges and help just gel everything together. To help tie in the submarine's tail, which is churning in the water.
Yeah, submarine's tail. Looks like a
a
plane tail. An animal tail.
The submarine look a little bit more wet, a little bit more realistic. I rendered just a whole pass of the submarine as chrome, and then just mix that in to create a little sheen on the
They're
submarine.
doing a
What
final
I
shot
wanted
is
to
a
do was
submarine
take a reflection of the
exploding.
city in the water. So what I did was I took the existing shot and then flipped it over and just ran it through a little ripple program to create the final composite. And here we've got all of the elements combined. And these are all pasted together in one final composite.
These are
to
elements
create the finished
combined.
shot. And the next shot, I had to create the waterfall from looking down, so you're almost going to fall over the edge of the waterfall. And again, I
Fall
used
on
the
the
same
edge of water.
basic principles of taking grids with a texture map on those grids and displacing that image, and then bending it around to create this general feel of the water. One of the elements that I used was actually shot on a little DV camera, and we went over to Mill Valley, where I live, and just shot a little waterfall that's there. In fact, it was just an excuse to get out of the office for a day. But we used that element and then combined that into the shot, and the idea was to get as much real water reference in there, just add a little bit more depth and a little bit more realism. So anything real that you can find. And then we took the submarine and then threw it down the waterfall. The submarine was supposed to hit
There's
the
a
base of the
submarine
waterfall and
falling.
explode in pieces. I had to take the object and actually cut it into pieces.
They're
so that
using
each of
the
those little pieces
object
could be animated to break
to
up
smashing
and
the
crumble in pieces.
submarine by the
So we
waterfall.
have all the pieces together, falling down the waterfall and then exploding as they impact.
Yeah.
Along with those little pieces, I also had to create little small tiny little bits just to explode and throw into the water. And here we've got some more particles and some fluffy ones just to create more and more of this texture which kind of helps sell it as being water. One little extra thing is to add a little camera shake on.
Yeah,
to make
adding
shot
the
feel
camera
more
shaking,
alive. You're
good.
actually in there surrounded by water that makes it feel like it's a real camera. There's actually somebody there shooting the shot. So there's all of those elements combined. And
The
that's the final
submarine's
shot.
the submarine hasn't exploded with the impact. Alright, moving on is the air taxi sequence for Koyerskant.
sense of place and that sort of thing have a tendency to go by the wayside, and that's really what happened with the air taxi scene.
I was always sad to lose the air taxi. Primarily
I
because
think
I
this
thought
is
Coruscant was
similar.
such a beautifully designed city, and it was so unique.
You just
I think
arrive
it's
in Coruscant,
similar.
this magnificent city with all its levels of three-dimensional traffic and of its spectacular architecture.
I wanted to be able to show off a little bit of it other than the few shots that we had of it flying through the city. Looking at that sequence finally finished, I decided that it probably was okay to put that in the movie, that it was actually a nice little environmental tone poem that gave us a better sense of Coruscant. And so that actually got moved from the DVD outtakes into the movie proper.
Alright. The air taxi sequence. This is already incorporated from the similar and same deleted scenes with the movie.
I will speak with the Jedi Council.
It's our same
The
movie.
situation has become much more complicated.
Eddie, come on.
Yeah. And Jar Jar and young Anakin Skywalker to go into the air taxi sequence.
The queens are being grossly nice recent times. Pity, huh?
Sometimes
Alright,
you tell
moving
the
to
story,
the dawn before the
you decide
race.
Which parts of the story you're going to tell, and which transitions you're going to spend some time on, and which you're going to move right through. The scene in which Padme awakens Anakin was a scene that I felt quality-wise in terms of the acting and the way I shot it, everything wasn't really up to the rest of the movie. When we cut the movie together, I realized I didn't really need that. I could just cut directly to the pod race and not feel like we jumped head too far. Screen time is very precious, and you have to be very careful about how you use it.
Okay. Whoops. All right. I'll see you in the next part.